New Zealand, it's wonderful news. Less than a week ago, we're at day 5 as I record this. Day 5 since I put out a message asking whether New Zealand would like a party that is absolutely dedicated to give the power back to the people, back to you, that is loyal only to the people of New Zealand, not to the World Economic Forum, not to the UN, not to the WHO, not to any that Luxon, and believe you me, Luxon and Seymour are both totally enmeshed, as much as Hipkins and the Greens. If you want a really good question for Luxon when you go to any of his meetings, ask this question over and over. How many times, Christopher Luxon of National, have you stayed at Bill Gates' compound in America? And how proud are you of that? I've had many people reach out to me and tell me they've heard him say that, and he's been numerous times. That's a real concern. So we needed somebody to stand up and say, no more of this selling out of our country. I've had enough. But what I said last Wednesday was, do you want me to do this? And I also added that I don't want to be a politician, not by any means at all in the world has this been one of my ambitions. But I will do it in that very old-fashioned, out-of-date way, out of service to my country and love for the people of my country. It is costing me. I'm doing massive hours. One day was 4 a.m. till midnight, and I'm willing to do that because the response has been nothing short of overwhelming. I'll give you some idea of numbers. I've got a few jotted down here. 1,700 sign-ups in the first 24 hours. 1,700. Thank you all. Some of you may not realize that if you want to become full members of this party, it's important that you pay $20. So we have a full spreadsheet. Every single cent that comes in is already on the spreadsheet. The names and the contacts, it's all there. Every single cent will be accounted for, and not 1 cent will be touched until we have full accountants taking care of it and overseeing how that money goes out. So that was day 1. By the end of the second day, we'd had something like 16,000 views, which was terrific. Somebody contacted me this morning and said, do you realize they've taken off the view count on Facebook, so we can't see how many people are looking? The dirty games are beginning already, but it's a compliment. They're scared of the people rising together. It means they're worried. If they were ignoring us, they would be complacent. But when they start their dirty games, and there are many dirty games I've seen this government play in the last 2 years while I've been doing Free NZ Media, the shadow banning, obviously the government trolls, the nasty media stuff. But that means that they are scared of us, of the people, rising and saying we're taking back our country. It's a compliment. And then day 4, I'll just jump to today's date, as at 11:30 this morning, we'd had 644 fully paid up members. Now by Saturday, we already had over 500. So all the forms had gone out. I want to allay some fears of people who say, oh, you didn't put the full Electoral Commission requirements on the initial form. No, we did that on purpose. It's very important that the party gets a big database. And I'm sensitive to the fact that some people who are still working out whether I am trustworthy, all our trust has been so bashed and broken in the last few years, they may not have wanted to put down their date of birth and their electorate and their personal details until they'd sussed us out a bit more. So I acknowledge that by putting up the database details so that we have a good party database, a family, a tribe that we can connect with and communicate with. That has built enormously. And then once we saw the people who'd paid, we sent out the proper forms, and already most of those have come back. If you have been sent an email from us, from New Zealand Loyal, please check your incoming emails. Please get that back to us as quickly as possible with your date of birth, your electorate, and we will, this is just wonderful, we have somebody who's willing to drive the forms in person down to Wellington, to the Electoral Commission, to make sure that they are registered in time. That is extraordinary. We have 3,056 new member sign-ups as at 11:30 this morning. 3,056. That's just extraordinary. 644 of them paid up members. We have had 23,000 site visits as at 11:30 this morning. And it's only Monday. I was going to get back to you on Wednesday, but so many people have been saying, Liz, what are the numbers? Please tell us. I thought I'd do this message. I would say to all of those naysayers who are doing, and there aren't so many of them actually, when you compare it with all of the support, but on each site there are a few. Those naysayers who say, it's too late, you've left it too late, you can't do it. I'd say this to you. You've vastly underestimated the Kiwi spirit. It's always been there. It just needed to light up again. Instead of staying passive, instead of feeling broken, humiliated, denigrated by this government and feeling powerless, I believe something is spreading across New Zealand, and it's this. I think people know in your hearts, in vast numbers, how deeply powerful we are, the people of New Zealand. And don't underestimate what this is. It's a David and Goliath battle. The Goliath are the overlords, yes, of this government. The Goliath are the sold up parliamentarians. Don't ever, ever for a moment think David Seymour won't sell out this country. I've been told from a number of sources that he was very disappointed not to go to Davos, that he very much wants to be part of the WEF, where we saw little Chapkins, I've decided to call him, our little leader, sitting in front of the WEF sign, shaking hands with the CCP leader, the Chinese Communist Party leader, looking like an adoring little boy, a little fan club of communism. And standing next to Klaus Schwab, that ridiculous Bond-like villain figure who wears these extraordinary kind of Star Wars type jackets. I mean, he's laughable, except that all these sold out world leaders are cozying up to him and willing to sell out their country. And if you want to know what it's like to have the next stages of the sellout, just look at Trudeau in Canada. He is silencing his people. The censorship is vast. He's stopping the sale of alternative medicines and health products and alternative health modalities. He's trying to suppress the people in every way he can. It's horrifying what's going on in Canada. Look at France. It is on the verge of a complete conflagration, possibly another French Revolution. People are standing up around the world to these bullies from the UN, from the World Economic Forum, and from the WHO. But we don't need to do it the violent way in New Zealand. They want us to. They want the conflagration. They want the fight. And then they want to come through the middle and say, hey, we've got the solution to all this. But we're smarter than that. So it's exciting what's happening here. We can do it in a powerful, civilized, intelligent, but above all combined and really unified way. On the issue of unity, I do need to deal with this. I believe that it's not really in the end about the people who stand, although it's so important for me to have a group of fellow New Zealanders who have high integrity, really good hearts, and want to serve our country. And I can tell you I've had so many offers from people, many of them whom I know, many of them whom I've interviewed, who are people of the highest integrity, the greatest courage, the most loving and loyal Kiwis you can imagine, who are willing to stand with me. But it's not really about that. It's actually about the policies. The policies are what will give the front runner the momentum. And those policies I will be announcing in a message to you on Monday. And I believe those policies will reach beyond even the truth-telling community, the freedom community, right into the people who have been wanting to disengage and not look at the horrors. But they're starting to have a sense that something is very wrong in New Zealand, that we have been very much lied to and misled. They don't quite want to look in full face at the horrors the way the rest of us have. but the policies will reach to them and will inspire them, and they will realize they will have a much better life if they vote for the policies we're going to offer. So that way we get a front runner, and then the people who want to join from the other parties, they will do it because they see that it is a better way. They won't do it because people are demanding that we all join together in a flimsy, facile unity, the way we saw with a couple of parties that have been shown up to have great question marks over them. And I don't want to deride other people. I simply want to say we're focusing on what is good for New Zealanders, and I believe unity will come from that, and wise people will join with us in a freedom of choice, not in a you must join in just because you've stood up and said you want to contribute to this. Everything in this country from now on must be done in freedom of choice, because you want to be part of a New Zealand loyal party. I was in a cafe this morning, and as I left, an older man stopped me and said, "Liz, what's the name of your party?" And I said, "New Zealand Loyal," or Loyal for short. And he said, "Oh, anyway, I'm probably going to go overseas. I'm going to leave New Zealand. It's all just awful here." And I put my hand on his arm and I looked him in the eye and I said, "But if you do that, you'll be betraying your forebears. They fought for us, for our freedom, and we have to fight for it now. It's our turn so that our children can be free," as I said last time. And then I added, if you run, there's nowhere to run to. This cancer from the UN and the WEF and the WHO and all the others, this cancer is spreading around the world, but it's just waiting for enough people to stand up and say no. And then I added, why should you leave me and all the brave ones who've reached out to me in the last 5 days? Why should you leave us to fight for your country while you go offshore? Why should you? And then come back, what, in 2 years? A year? 4 months when we have won it back? No, we need you as much as I need every other person who's standing. And I loved him and I resented him in the same moment. How dare any of us give in to our cowardice for one day longer, because it's cowardly to leave our country and leave your fellow Kiwis to fight. We together, only us together, can win this country back. My father had a poem, and I need to talk about him at the moment because it steels my spine and it stops me wanting to be cowardly and self-serving, because he had to do that, as I said in my last message. But he had a message. He had a poem on his table, and that message has come back to me. As a child, I used to read it often. And it's sort of a quaint poem that I think the soldiers in World War I and World War II used to say to themselves. I'll only recite the first verse because it's in me from my childhood, but it's quite sweet. It goes, somebody said that it couldn't be done, but he, with a smile, replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say no till he tried. And that is what I'm asking of you. Ignore the naysayers. And by the way, I'll deal with this once. Ignore the people who say I'm a Freemason. I am happy to meet any of those who say that. And you can bring a Bible, which is a sacred book, and I will put my hand on the Bible and say, I have never ever gone to a Freemason meeting, been part of Freemasons, looked into Freemasonry, except to know that the upper echelons are doing very evil things in the world, and often the lower echelons have no idea. That's as much as I really know. And it's dark. And it's not something I would ever want to be part of. But those who are trying to spread rumours are often from the government. As a person from a mainstream media organisation, Sean Plunkett, he's very much mainstream, tried to say, am I controlled opposition, trying to put out false rumours. These people are ridiculous. They're past their due date. And I think even the mainstream media, some of them, the Herald in the weekend, may be sensing the fury at those who continue to spread the lies like Sean does, and continue, like the spin-off, to deride people as far right. I've never been far right. I'm never fringe right. I was absolutely a supporter of Obama to my shame and my chagrin. I would never, never support any of those Democrats now unless a new one comes in. And watch Robert F. Kennedy. See what you think of him. He's an interesting one to watch. There are good things happening around the world, that's my point. And we, New Zealand, can be part of it. We absolutely can do this together. The numbers show me that. Here I am, 2 days ahead of time. Already, we have the numbers that we need to form this party. And think about it in 2 weeks. What will we have done? The papers will be in Wellington. I'll be declaring the policy on Monday. And then every day after that, I'm going to do a little piece on our website about each policy and break it down in short cuts so you can see what we stand for. And then in 2 weeks, the candidates will be starting to roll out. We will be very carefully selecting them. But there's a board to put together. I have somebody who's extremely experienced on board already to help me build all the steps needed for a party. What can be done by a group of individuals who love our country, are not going to be walked over, and who are utterly, irrepressibly determined to come together to pull off a miracle? Anything, I say. Please, would you keep donating to the party? And please, if you want to be a member and you've already signed up, please pay that $20 membership fee, and then we can include you in the official membership as a loyal Kiwi. Thank you, New Zealand. I'll talk to you again on Monday.